Welcome to Rebuilding the Artist, a podcast that explores the intersection of identity, creativity, and mental health in the arts. I'm your host, Rashida Black, a therapist and former musician, here to help you navigate the pressures and challenges of a world that often demands perfection at the cost of well-being. This podcast is about reclaiming your sense of self between all of the expectations and harsh self-talk. Whether you're an artist or supporting a creative, join us as we explore building resilience and living authentically. We're back. Quick question. Have you ever woken up in the middle of the night wondering how Hitler went from a watercolorist to a genocidal maniac? No, just me? Okay, well, anyway, I've had some sleepless nights recently, and I think it's kind of prompted something else. How about this? How do you maintain your dignity in the face of systemic elitism, racism, and classism? That's a big question, right? But that's also the topic of today's episode. Today, we're going to dive into power dynamics where reputation and gatekeeping can make or break a career. I specifically want to talk about how people in positions of privilege can manipulate and mistreat others. I'm going to try to end this by highlighting the resistance required to hold our ground. So if you are an artist from a marginalized background who's currently in elite spaces that affect your opportunities and or your career, I better feel some energetic amens and other affirmations coming from your corner of the globe. I'm just saying. So let me tell you a story. Picture this. Boston, start of the 21st century. I'd just been blackballed and blacklisted from the music scene, and I was panicking. See, what happened was I was in college and I had a consultation call about the gig details scheduled with this old wealthy woman. And when I called her, it sounded something like this. Hi, this is Rashida. You were supposed to call me at 8 a.m. No, ma'am. You told me to call you at 8:30. That's why I'm calling you at 8:30 on the dot. I know what I said. I said 8 o'clock. Well, I'm sorry for that misunderstanding. Do you still want to talk about the... And so then I didn't really get to finish. There was just more kind of high-pitched yelling about what she said, and she knows what she said. And let me tell you something, listener. I am a punctual person. I am on the border of type A. And I show up, especially when it comes to money. So I was a college student. I needed money, right? And gigging was yet another job that I had in addition to working in the career services office. So anyway, back to the call. Old Yeller was irate, like ranting, just going on. And I tried to interject, but she couldn't hear anything, right? Because she was just caught up in her own bullshit. And so really, there was nothing that I could say to an irrational, unreasonable person. I knew that I was supposed to be a good girl and endure this berating, but no one yells at me. I have stopped going to certain churches because a pastor was like yelling and acting a fool on the pulpit. I can't deal with it. Cut to me happy as a lark sitting in a quiet Quaker service. But also, I grew up with a black mama, and black mamas have looks, honey. My mother never yelled. She didn't have to. Those looks choked the sound out of my little throat. So she never really had to. And so then why, listener, would I allow anyone to raise their voice at me? This entitled woman couldn't hear me over her insanity anyway, but I still said, I'm going to end the call now. Goodbye. And I hung up the phone. I just remember thinking, like, how crazy is this to be told is something incorrect by some power tripping, lying egomaniac. And, to listen to that, I would have to consent to that verbal assault. Girl, bye. I was really shaken. That rattled me. But, I still had to get ready for my day of classes and work and whatever. Well, what I didn't realize was that it only takes about 45 minutes for the world to end. And that was the duration of my commute to campus. Upon arrival, I was called into an office with a stern-looking white man and a sheepish-looking black woman who informed me that I had lost my ability to perform in Boston due to hanging up on this narcissist. I countered that I didn't hang up on her. She had lost her fucking mind, and it was improper of me to bear witness to that, right? I can't take responsibility for that. So I corrected their misinformation with facts that I announced my departure and respectfully ended the verbal abuse. They didn't care. The verdict stood. And I remember how hot my face got with being mischaracterized. And then I looked directly at that black woman sitting there and I was like, really? Like, really, sis? I just felt so betrayed that this person whose, visible identities reflected mine, and she was unsupportive. I projected onto her that she would know what was going on and how I felt. I could have been wrong. Maybe she just had a strong poker face. I don't know. But by this time, with my background, I had a lot of wounds from white harm, and there was just something there. Why is it that the haves can lie on and mistreat the have-nots when they actually have? They want and need things from us. And so then after leaving that meeting, I had a healthy cry because I just felt the powerlessness that was real. That was the reality. And having been stripped of my capacity to earn money as a performer in a city that I still had to pay rent in for the duration of my educational program, that was a lot already. But then I got a call from my harp teacher who confirmed that she had also been called about the incident directly from the shrieking shrew herself. This woman was clearly on like a smear campaign. My harp teacher didn't shame me the same way that the school did, but she did talk to me about the importance of reputation. Basically, she was schooling me on how to not get canceled. And let me be honest, I still feel today, 25-ish years later, that I would do the exact same thing. If sacrificing my dignity was how to not get canceled in Boston, I said Boston can go fuck itself, because it's hard enough to stand up for your dignity when economically disadvantaged, but it's even harder when dignity is pitted against protecting your reputation. To maintain dignity and potentially lose opportunities, I ask you, artists, especially those from marginalized backgrounds, how do you navigate that delicate balance between staying true to yourself and playing the game? Like I've been saying on this podcast, it's not about the art itself, right? Like, that's not the problem. It's the people. People in every walk of life, every profession, they find ways to create divide. Why? I originally wanted to call this podcast The Misanthropic Therapist, but my producer, Walker Verlin, was like, nah, overall. I know that I kind of made this meta, but if we were to broaden out the scope, what we're really talking about here is how systems of power in the arts work to keep certain people at the top and others somewhere else around the periphery. And I shouldn't have to tell anybody listening to this podcast how systemic bias, like racism and classism and elitism, is often masked as maintaining some quote unquote standards in these spaces and these dynamics that persist today, right? Which is how we get the Harvey Weinsteins of the world. My sweet rebuilders, what I ultimately did, I turned my attention to connecting with other groups. And there are so many people and places to explore, communities to nurture, and especially those who have kind of historically had limited access to certain arts. We can collaborate in experimental and other creative ways. So, to be honest, I actually had more fun and learned more about what and who I love by turning my attention away from those traditional pathways. It was harder in some ways, yeah. I wasn't paid as well, for one, but not having to endure the confines of oppression, priceless. Anyway, I just want to end with this. The arts should be a space for everyone. And the people who enforce these barriers, these are not the true judges of value. So talk to me. Have you ever faced some similar gatekeeping or discrimination? I want to hear about it. And if you have, I want to know how you stayed strong. What I know is that resistance builds resilience, and our advocacy helps us thrive. So stay strong. I love you for listening. Talk to you next time.
Thank you for listening to Rebuilding the Artist. We hope today's conversation left you feeling inspired, connected, and more in tune with your creative self. Remember, this journey is about progress, not perfection. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with fellow artists who need to hear these stories. You can also follow us on Instagram at Kimura Wellness for more insights and updates. That's Kimura Wellness, Khemura Wellness. Join us next time as we continue to explore what it means to rebuild and heal as an artist. Until then, keep creating, keep questioning, and above all, keep showing up for yourself. You are the artist. You are the storyteller of your life.